Are you ready? Are you ready to experience the final chapter here in episode 2, where there's 3 chapters, but the last one is pretty short, so I'm going to include them all in this installment of Glunk the Paladin. If you have not watched any of the previous ones, I suggest you check out episode 1 all the way to here, because it'll make more sense if you're watching all of them as opposed to starting at the end here, because you wouldn't want to watch the finale of a TV show without knowing how it started. Not that this is anywhere near as cool, but I'm excited because I wrote it. Anyway, here we go. Chapter 10. What Monsters Really Do. The giant's roar was a physical force, a wave of hot, foul breath and mindless rage. It swung its tree-trunk club in a wide, grinding arc, pulverizing a stone well into gravel. "Plan?" Flint squeaked, ducking behind Glunk as debris rained down. "Please, tell me there's a plan that doesn't involve being smashed into paste." Glunk's eyes, narrowed with focus, tracked the monster's movements. "Olga, tangle feet and distract it." Olga grunted in acknowledgement. She drove her spear into the cobblestones, chanting in her guttural tongue. Ghostly green vines, thick as pythons, erupted from the earth, snaking up the giant's legs. The creature bellowed in surprise, its next step faltering as the magical roots tightened, anchoring it momentarily. "Flint," Glunk growled, hefting his axe. "Climb! Hurt giant! Find soft spot!" "Climb? On that smashy thing?" "You fast! You small! It not see you!" Flint muttered a string of pus buckets, but a greedy glint sparkled in his eyes. A giant's pockets might have interesting things. "Fine, but I'm keeping any loot that I find." He became a green blur, scrambling up a collapsed cart and leaping onto the giant's fur-clad leg, like a squirrel scaling a tree. Olga chanted mysterious words in her native tongue, calling forth a swarm of ghostly, stinging insects that surrounded the giant, blurring its vision and slowing its movements even further. It leaned forward, swatting at its own leg with massive calloused hand, attempting to break the spectral vines. "Now, Glunk!" Olga roared as she cast a third curse on the towering creature. Glunk paused for a moment, looking up at the giant. "Are we certain? Giant is not brother to noble? Or maybe some emissary? It just rampaging giant. It eat you if you stand there asking stupid questions," Olga shrieked. Glunk charged. He was a boulder of muscle and fury, his great axe held high. He aimed for the anchor. As the giant leaned forward, Glunk brought his axe down in a mighty swing on the knee joint of its weight-bearing leg. The sound was a sickening crunch of cartilage and bone. The giant shrieked in agony and staggered, its injured leg buckling. High above, Flint had reached the giant's broad shoulders. The creature's thick matted hair was like a forest. He could feel the thunder of its pulse through the soles of his feet. A soft spot, He saw it, a patch of thinner, stretched skin just above the collarbone, where a massive vein throbbed dangerously close to the surface. "Pus buckets! Here goes nothing!" He plunged both daggers into the spot, using his whole body weight to saw and tear. A geyser of hot, dark blood erupted, drenching flint and showering the square below. The giant's shriek was different this time, sharper, laced with panic. It clawed at its own neck, trying to dislodge the stinging, bleeding nuisance. The blood loss was immediate and profound. Its movements became sluggish, its swings less powerful. The giant's wild backhand swipe, though slow, was still immense. It connected with a sickening thud, plucking flint from his perch. Yeah! The goblin was flung through the air, a tiny, bloody projectile, before landing in a heap against the wall of the butcher shop. He did not get up. "Flint!" Glunk boomed. He swung wildly at the giant's legs, slicing flesh and tendons, hobbling it further. Then he delivered a final upward strike to the giant's grundle. It let out a howl of agonizing pain that swept across the city like a banshee's cry. The giant, now grievously wounded and bleeding from its legs and neck, focused its rage on Glunk. It lurched forward, its movements clumsy and heavy. It raised its bloody leg and stomped down. Glunk rolled aside, the impact shaking the ground and sending him stumbling. He was off balance, and the giant's hand closed around him, lifting him up, squeezing the air from his lungs. His axe clattered to the ground. Olga saw Flint fall. She saw Glunk caught, his face turning purple, which is an odd thing when you're green. Her concentration broke, and the magical vines dissolved into mist. The giant stood to its full, terrifying height, holding its prey aloft, but it was unsteady, swaying from its bleeding neck and shattered knee. It was about to crush Glunk. Olga's eyes burned with feral rage. This was for her clan. "No hurt Glunk!" she bellowed. She charged, lowering her bone spear like a lance, channeling all her trollish strength into a single devastating thrust. The spear, fueled by rage and glowing with primal magic, punched through the giant's thigh into a major artery, an icy venomous shock sent into the giant's chest. With a final wet gurgle, the giant's legs gave way completely. It teetered for a moment, a falling mountain still clutching Glunk. Then it fell backward, crashing into the roof of the guard barracks with a splintering, crushing roar of collapsed timber and stone. A cloud of dust billowed out, engulfing the square. Silence fell, heavier than before. From the rubble of the butcher shop, a single pained groan was heard. Pus buckets! The dust began to settle. All that could be seen was the giant's massive form, sprawled and broken across the ruins. There was no sign of Glunk or Olga. Well, that's where I'm gonna leave it, folks. I'm just pulling your chain. We're going to the next chapter. We're not playing that game this time. Chapter 11, The Cost. The dust settled over Stonecrest Square, coating the ruins and the stunned, silent crowd in a fine gray powder. For a long while, there was only the crackle of small fires and the faint dying gurgle from the giant's throat. Then a tremor ran through the massive leg, pinning the wreckage of the barracks. With a grunt of immense strain, the limb shifted. Glunk, covered in dust and blood, hauled himself from beneath the crushing weight. He stumbled, his body a symphony of bruises, but his eyes were already scanning the devastation. He ignored the staring faces, the whispers beginning to rise from the crowd. His focus was singular. "Flint!" he bellowed, his voice hoarse. A weak, coughing groan answered from a pile of splintered wood and torn awning that was once the butcher's shop. Glunk lumbered over and carefully extracted the goblin, laying him on a clear patch of cobblestone. "You stay! I find Olga!" His search was frantic. He finally saw a familiar bone spear, shattered near where the giant's head had landed. But as he rushed towards it, a flash of faded blue cloth caught his eye. Tucked between two shattered beams, unconscious but breathing, was Lena. Her dress was torn, her feet and legs were caked in mud and scraped raw. Twigs and dead leaves were tangled in her hair. Most telling of all, her small fist was clenched like a vice around a rock, as she had been in mid-throw. A cold dread wrapped around Glunk's heart. What was she doing here? Her feet, the forest, the rock. "Yara!" His roar cut through the murmuring square. Not a threat, but a desperate summons. The woman broke from the crowd, her face pale with a new terror. She rushed to his side, her eyes wide at the sight of her daughter. "Take her!" Glunk said, his voice low and urgent. "She's safe, just sleeping. Take her now." Yara needed no further prompting. She gathered Lena into her arms, the rock clattering to the cobblestones, and hurried away, weeping with relief and confusion. Only then did Glunk turn back to the rubble. He dropped to his knees, clearing the stones with frantic hands to reveal Olga, half buried beneath. The vibrant green of her skin had faded to a sickly ashen gray. "Olga! Olga!" Her eyes fluttered open, their usual fiery glow dimmed to embers. She focused on him with effort. A trickle of black blood seeped from the corner of her mouth. "Glunk!" she rasped. Each word was a struggle. "Olga used all magic, all life to stop Big Smash Thing." She coughed, a wet, hollow sound. "I think you are a fool, Glunk, but I follow you because I never see a fool so brave and noble." She turned her head slightly, her gaze finding the distant, groaning form of Flint. "And Flint, he not so bad for a tiny goblin." Her eyes returned to Glunk, holding his with a startling intensity. You keep safe." Her massive chest rose once, fell, and did not rise again. A sound tore from Glunk's throat, a raw, guttural mix of a roar and a sob. He bowed his head with solemn care. He reached out and gently removed the necklace of shriveled ears and trinkets from around her neck. He coiled it and tucked it into his belt. Then he bent down and gathered Olga's body into his arms. He carried her back across the square and laid her gently on the ground beside Flint. Flint had pushed himself up onto his good elbow. He stared at Olga's still form, at the gray pallor of her skin. The usual manic energy was gone from his face, replaced by a stunned, hollow look. He reached out a trembling green hand and touched one of the bones woven into her hair. He looked up at Glunk, his eyes wide with a loss he didn't have words for. All he could manage was a choked whisper filled with more pain and respect than any long speech. "Pus buckets," he muttered, his voice breaking. Not Olga." The two of them, the half-orc and the goblin, sat in silence amidst the ruins, the body of their trollish friend between them. The cheers of the saved city felt 1,000 miles away. They had won. They had proven what monsters could do. But the cost had been everything. Chapter 12. The Weight of the Shield. The days that followed were a blur of slow, painful mending. The city's best healers were priests, and they were off on some righteous crusade, leaving their people to suffer. In their stead was a silent, robed monk from a mountain monastery. His hands gnarled but gentle. He set Flint's broken arm and stitched Glunk's deeper cuts with practiced efficiency. But his arts could not speed time. Recovery was a dull, aching marathon. With the entire city of Stonecrest now fervently on Glunk's side, the magistrate's hand was forced to sway. Lord Valerius stood before them in the clean, sunlit room they had been given. His pronouncement of a full and formal pardon, sounding less like a decree and more like a desperate plea for them to leave without further incident. The city offered a formal burial for Olga, a gesture Glunk declined with a quiet grunt. "Olga's spirit is with wild things, not in stone box." Instead, he and Flint, the latter leaning heavily on a crutch, carried her body to a high cliff overlooking the forest. They built a cairn of stones over her, a simple, powerful monument that felt far more fitting than any city tomb. Olga would become part of the land she loved. The gratitude of the people was tangible. A master smith, his shop saved from the giant's rampage, presented Flint with a set of new daggers. The blades were keen and perfectly balanced, the leather-wrapped hilts snug in his hand. They were a soldier's tools, not a thief's, and Flint looked at them with a strange, new sense of purpose. For Glunk, the city's artisan, had worked day and night. They presented him with a massive round shield of layered oak and black steel. At its center, they had painted not a fierce animal or a noble's crest, but a simple, strong oak tree. for the protector of Stonecrest," the head smith said, bowing his head. Glunk took the shield. It was heavy, far heavier than the wood and the metal should be. It carried the weight of expectation, of a title he never asked for. He slung it over his back without a word. There were other gifts, sturdy backpacks of thick leather, practical wool and linen tunics that replaced their tattered gear, and a small fortune in travel food, dried meats, hardtack, and a wheel of cheese that made Flint's eyes gleam. On the morning they departed, a small crowd gathered at the city gate. Yara was there, holding a quiet, watchful Lena. The little girl's eyes met Glunk's for a moment, a universe of unspoken words passing between them. Gratitude, grief, and a secret that bound them tighter than any chain. She looked away, burying her face in her mother's dress. Glunk adjusted the strap of his new shield. Flint tested the weight of his new dagger, his arm still in a sling. "Ready?" Glunk asked, his voice a low rumble. Flint took one last look at the city that had tried to kill them and then begged for them to save it. He snorted, "Puss buckets! Let's go. This place reeks of bad memories and worse decisions." They turned their backs on Stonecrest and walked down the road. Two monsters turned heroes, carrying the ghost of a troll, the weight of a shield, and a secret that would forever change them. And that's it. That is all for episode 2, or whatever, however, I don't know. I'm just making it like a TV show and calling them episodes. I hope you enjoyed it. It's probably different than what might have been expected, but I feel like different is good. No? Yes? Maybe? Let me know what you think of this full installment in the comments below. I really want to hear from you. And if you maybe are looking forward to seeing this as an ebook or as a paperback or something like that in the near future. I know I am not good at dramatic reading. I read like ass, but I gave it my all with this one, and hopefully it shows, because I am passionate about this story. Again, this was something I wrote like many years ago. I don't know when. It was a scribble on a document in my computer, and I uncovered it one day while I was bored, and it was just a few paragraphs, and it's become this so far. I'm not writing it. It's telling me what to write, and this is what it told me to put down. So, again, I hope you enjoy it. Remember, I'm going to be doing part 2 to my sci-fi story, and I feel like Glunk is going to get a part 3 if people are enjoying it. If not, I don't know, maybe it stops there. But don't you want to know what happens next? So leave comments, leave thumbs up, share it. That'd be great. I would like to thank all my current subscribers and all my Patreon patrons and YouTube channel members for your support and your continued support. Those of you who have subscribed month after month and everything else. Thank you very much. Have a great day and a wonderful tomorrow.
Steals the sun away and taxes take the yield. The warlord took Arlene, a girl, her fate trap sprung in the mire. The goblin laughed, as buckets cried, and stole the warlord's wire. The cave did stink of blood and boast of men with fists of brand, till Glunk said, surrender now, stoic in his demand.
Oh, Glunk the Green, with axe of blackened steel. Oh, God the Troll, who makes the curses real. And Flint's quick finger, with his crooked grin. They went into the mountain to bring our leader in.
A knife held to the innocent, a threat to make them yield. The green hand from the shadows was caught upon the field. But from the dark, a tiny savior, a rock held in her hand. She cracked the skull of cruelty to free this wretched land.
Glunk's great axe came down, a bloody final rain. The warlord split his rotten heart, will never beat again. And on the child's face they saw a grin both sharp and wide. A little bit of monster, now blooming deep inside. Oh, Glunk the Green, with axe of blackened steel. Olga the Troll, who makes the wicked kneel. And Flint's quick finger, who owes a life debt grim. They came out of the mountain, they brought our leader in.
They took no silver, took no gold, just bread and cheese and grief. So raise a pint of Hobson's best to the merciful monster. The merciful monster. The merciful monster.